Hello everyone, my name is Maggie and welcome to my garden space. It's finally finished. Now we finally have the garden beds in, and I actually already have some plants planted in there, and I want to give you guys a little bit of a garden tour. Things are not yet done. There's still a patch which I'm going to show you, which we're going to do some more with, and I'm going to show you what I've got planted in there so far. Today is March 12th, I think, so it's still really early in the season, so I don't have a lot of things growing, but things are planted. So let's go ahead and go in the garden. Before I show you guys the finished garden tour, let me show you what this place looked like when we first moved in. Now this is the space when we first moved in. As you can see, it's just grass and trees. There's nothing there. And we were so excited for this space because it's just so green and luscious and beautiful. The next thing that we did was put up a fence, and the reason why we put up a fence is because there are lots of deer around where we now live, and there are also groundhogs here, so we have to be able to protect our garden so that they're not just coming in. After that, we went ahead and we put up these beautiful metal raised garden beds from Vigo Garden. I decided to go with raised metal beds because first of all, I just love the look, but I also feel like they're going to be more durable and long lasting. The next thing that we did was put in some wood chips and just logs and all sorts of wooden material in the bottom of the raised beds, just to kind of fill it up about maybe like a quarter or a third of the way, to provide some material that will break down over time. And now this is how the garden looks like from the outside of the fence. As you can see, all the beds are full and things are looking more finished. And now we're going to go ahead and start planting. And now let's go ahead and get into the finished garden tour. So here we are in the garden. My husband and I, we put in these beds a couple of weeks ago, and we filled them in with some garden pot mix that we got from a local, I don't know what they're called, but but they delivered it in a big truck and dumped it right here outside the garden. Anyway, we filled it all in. These are Vigo raised garden beds, and in a few minutes I'll talk about why I went with raised garden beds instead of in-ground gardening, and why I went with metal beds instead of wooden beds. But anyway, this is how it's looking, and I got them in all the colors because I feel like one color is boring. So we got them in all the colors because I thought it would look so pretty, and I feel like we did it. We accomplished like what I had envisioned in my head. So let's go ahead and go through what I've got planted. You see, I've got seedlings popping up everywhere. And I've got potatoes planted in some of these beds. These are my broccoli and cauliflower starts, which I started indoors. I transferred them out here a couple weeks ago, and I think they were kind of shocked because we did kind of have another cold snap, but now it's warming up again. And this is my little cabbage patch. All of these are cabbage starts, as you can see here. And these are onions, which I planted, and you can see they're coming up. These three I actually bought at a nursery, but the rest of them are my own starts. Here, let's fix this little guy. That one died. Oh, I really hope and pray that they survive. Anyway, moving on. Over here, I've got some, I don't remember if this was broccoli or cauliflower. It's one of them. I don't quite remember. And as you can see, I've got onions coming through. I planted a lot of onions in between the rows of the vegetables. So it's like cauliflower, onions, cauliflower or broccoli. I can't tell when they're at this stage, but I know that they are cauliflower or broccoli. So they're kind of planted interchangeably, kind of like that. And I did that so as to how the garden is looking in this corner. we had to cut down this tree because it provided way too much shade. And as you can see, our entire yard is surrounded by trees. So there is a lot of shade here except for midday. And this tree would have provided way too much shade and we would not have been able to grow things as well as we are able to now. This patch in this corner here, we plan to actually dig up and have an in-ground garden bed so that we can plant like corn and beans and squash. I plan to do kind of like a Three Sisters method in that section. And then over here, I'm trying to decide if we're gonna get ducks or not. And if we do get ducks, I'm trying to decide if I should put them inside the fence or outside the fence. But if we do, they'll probably go in this corner and I'll have a little pond for them and all of that. But this is how the garden is looking from here. I want to talk a bit for a minute about why I chose to have garden beds instead of an in-ground bed, and why I chose to have these metal ones instead of wooden ones. Now, in my previous garden, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you remember in my previous garden, I had an in-ground section of my garden, and I also had wooden raised beds, which my husband had built for me and put together. And that worked out well for us at the time, and it was affordable, it was easy to get into. We just, you know, went to Home Depot, got some lumber, put them together. And also the in-ground section, we covered with cardboard, covered with wood chips, and then put topsoil on there, and then we were in business. And honestly, that's the easiest and cheapest way to start gardening. If you feel like, man, I have a patch of ground and I want to start gardening, but maybe you feel like raised garden beds are too expensive, or maybe you feel like you have all of these barriers to entry, an in-ground garden bed with just some cardboard, wood chips, topsoil is like the cheapest, easiest, fastest way to get into having a garden. But that can kind of have its pros, and you know, there's pros and cons to everything. So I have, over the last like decade of my life, have had all sorts of different types of gardens. I've had in-ground gardens, I've had raised bed gardens, and I've had wooden raised beds, and now this is my first time working with metal raised beds. And the biggest reason why I chose to go with metal raised beds is because they do not decompose. I do not have to treat the wood. I do not have to line the wood with, like, I remember our last garden, we lined it with pond liner, and we were so worried because we were like, are the chemicals from that pond liner like leaching into our soil? And that was kind of a concern. So these are the Vigo raised garden beds. I am not sponsored by Vigo. We decided to, I decided to go with these because they are non-toxic. They are rated to last for 20 years, and they just seemed like the easiest solution to the problem of rotting with wooden raised beds and having some sort of treatment or lining in them to try to preserve their life for as long as possible. So that's why I went ahead with these metal raised beds. And as you can see, I got all the different colors because I love color. I'm just a colorful person, and I wanted my garden to be as full of color as much as possible. Now I decided to go with raised beds instead of in-ground because I have weeded, I have dug, I have had in-ground garden beds, and over the last few years I've gone through so many life changes. I've gone through pregnancies and postpartum and all of that, and I've just realized I want to preserve my back. Like I don't want to, unless I have to, I don't want to be hunched over, bending, digging, weeding, all of that. Having a raised bed kind of gives you more elevation. It's easier on your back, and also there's less weeding. I remember growing up, my mom would always be like, we're gonna go weed in the garden, and she would try to get us to be excited about it, but it was a lot of work. And I prefer, you know, raised garden. Now the great thing about the system I told you before, of if you are going to have an in-ground patch, putting in some cardboard, some wood chips, and then some topsoil, is that it does kind of prevent the weeds from coming through for a time. And it could be for a long time, but those weeds will come in. They will come eventually. And So I just, you know, from my experience, there's been a lot less weeding to do in the raised bed. The second thing is snails. Snails. At our previous home, we had, you know, the in-ground section and then the raised bed section. All of the fruits and vegetables that were in the raised beds, no snails got to them. All of the fruits and vegetables that were in ground, we were constantly battling snails. Especially our cabbages were devoured by snails. Our strawberries were eaten by snails. And I just, while we are gonna have an in-ground patch over there, I'm just hoping and praying that, you know, we won't have too much of a snail problem. And if we do, I'm thinking about getting some ducks, because I know that ducks are great predators for snails, and I'm hoping and praying that they will eat them and kind of be my pest control in this garden space. But thank you so much for coming into my garden. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. It makes me so happy that you would take the time to watch, and I really love making these videos. 2025 is the year I'm gonna make more content. I haven't posted on this channel since 2022, and then just life happened. I got pregnant, we had another baby, we moved across the country. So many things have happened in the last 3 years, but I'm hoping that now that life has settled down a little bit, that I'll be able to be making more content and more gardening content. And I want to see your gardens. I want to know what you're growing in your gardens. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you very soon.